This was a tough game for both teams. I mean, they came into this game, each of them with only one win. So they both needed a victory, but Ravens don't get it. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. My name is Ernie Jennings. I'm your host. And in this podcast, we'll be looking at the game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty much a must-win for both teams, but the Chiefs fairly easily won this game. Despite the fact that the Ravens did jump out to a 7-0 lead, but after that, it seemed to be pretty much the Chiefs most of the way. Unfortunately, in this game, Lamar Jackson hurt his hamstring and could be out at least week 5, maybe even more than that. Hopefully no more than 2 or 3 weeks, but definitely it looks like he's going to be out week 5. They had already been depleted, the Ravens, that is, on defense quite a bit, and now as another offensive, the main primary cog to their offense is out, so it's going to be a tough for them. All right, let's look at the game. There are no top 10s in this game, so we'll go right to the stats. And we will start with the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, 14 completions on 20 attempts for 147 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. He ended up with a quarterback rating of 86.9. Rush came in later in the second half and filling in for Jackson when he went out. He went 9 completions on 13 attempts for 52 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 76.4. Looking at the running backs, let's look at Kansas City quarterback first. Patrick Mahomes, really good game for him. 25 completions on 37 attempts, 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Had a quarterback rating of 124.8. Pretty good. All right, now let's look at the running backs for the Baltimore Ravens. And this is part of very questionable, and there must be a reason that we're not aware of as far as running backs go. At halftime, Henry had 3 carries. That's at the end of the half. Only 3 carries. Now, at that time, the Chiefs were winning 20-10, but still 3 carries for Henry. He ended up with 8 carries in this game for 42 yards. And I know it was a negative game script for him, so he was out some for that, but it's interesting how few carries he's had. Only 8 in an entire game. Usually he could have, easily 8 by halftime and 8 by a quarter sometimes. Especially after the first quarter when they're winning 7-3. So they're in this game, for the most part. Anyway, it's a mystery. I don't know if there's a reason behind Henry's lack of production in this game. Now, Hill came in as another running back, had 3 carries for 76 yards, but one of those was a 71-yard run for a touchdown. He had 1 touchdown. So he had the 1 big run, only 3 carries. Lamar Jackson had 6 carries for 48 yards, no touchdowns. No touchdowns for Henry in this game. Looking at the Kansas City Chiefs running backs, well, Xavier Worthy, 2 catches for 38 yards in this game. 2 carries, I'm sorry. He had 2 carries along with his receptions, but 2 carries for 38 yards. One of them was for 35 yards, so pretty big carry on the one of those around the end type plays. Now, Pacheco, 7 carries, 35 yards, and Kareem Hunt had 13 carries for 34 yards. So Pacheco was averaging 5 yards a carry on 7 of carries. Well, Hunt only had 2.6 yards per carry. And I don't know what that really says. Neither one has been outstanding. So they're splitting the carries right now, even though Hunt almost had double the amount of attempts. Another running back, Smith, actually looked better in the receiving game in some ways, but he had 4 carries, but for only 9 yards. Mahomes had 4 carries for 5 yards. And late in the game, Minshew came in to the game, had 2 carries for -3 yards. All right. Those are your running backs. And it's, like I said, mystery about what's going on with Henry. Now, looking at the receivers for Baltimore, Zay Flowers led the team, and he has been getting most of these, even though Andrews is now, after those first 2 mystery games where he only had 1 reception per game, he's definitely been targeted quite a bit more. Both Flowers and Andrews had 7 receptions with 8 targets, so they were the leading receivers. Now, Zay Flowers had 7 catches for 74 yards. Not too bad. And then Andrews had 7 catches, but for only 30 yards. No touchdowns for either one. Hill, as I was saying, who had the long run for a touchdown of 71 yards, also had a touchdown receiving. He had 5 catches on 6 targets for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. So he really had a big game here. Totaled out to 117 yards he had between running and receiving. Derrick Henry did have 2 catches himself for 16 yards. I've always wondered, why not try to throw it to Henry more? I mean, get him out in the open field. Who wants to tackle him? But it's never panned out in his career really that much. And Hopkins only had 1 target his way, no receptions. He had 1 really decent catch. It was for, I can't remember if it was about 20, 30 yards, but it was called back for an offensive penalty. And so he never ended up with a reception at all. All right. Looking at the Kansas City Chiefs receivers. Well, Xavier Worthy had a decent game, 5 catches on 8 targets. He was the most targeted receiver for Kansas City. 5 receptions, 83 yards, no touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 5 catches for 48 yards. And then Hollywood Brown, 3 catches on 5 targets for 38 yards, and he did have a touchdown. Smith-Schuster, also 4 catches on 6 targets for 36 yards and a touchdown as well. So Brown and Schuster had a touchdown, and Pacheco, 2 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown for him as well. And Thornton only had 1 catch in this game. He has looked impressive earlier, but only 1 catch on 2 targets. But if you happen to have him in the game, he did have a touchdown. 4 touchdowns by Mahomes in this game. All right. Looking at the defenses. In this game, really nobody stood out for Baltimore, which is a problem, which is why Kansas City scoring 37 points. Humphrey, before he went out of the game, and I don't know what his injury is exactly, but he was hurt, had 5 tackles in this game. That's it. Boy had 4 tackles and 1 assisted tackle. Hamilton had 3 tackles and 5 assists. Now, Green did have a tackle for loss in this game, and then Hummel had 2 sacks in this game. So that was basically it. They really didn't have anybody that impressive in this game. Actually, there was only 1 sack of Mahomes in this game. Let me see. That was by Tavius Robinson had the 1 sack in this game for the Ravens of Mahomes. And then looking at Baltimore's defense, Kyle Hamilton had 8 tackles, 3 solo, 5 assists. That was the top guy for them. I mentioned that. Let's go to Kansas City's real quick here. Drew Tranquil, 7 tackles in this game, total tackles. Nick Bolton, 6. They did sack the quarterback. George Karlaftis had 1 sack in this game, as did Jerry Tillery in this game. Interestingly, they had 1 sack credited to team, so there must have been more than 1 person involved in the sack. I mean, more than 2, I guess. So it couldn't count it even as a half sack. All right, that's a look at some of the defenders. Nobody really stood out in this game except for Mahomes. Had a really good game. It's a rough one for Baltimore. This was a tough game for both teams. I mean, they came into this game, each of them with only one win. So they both needed a victory, but Ravens don't get it. They're now 1-3. The Chiefs are 2-2. Kansas City leads this series 9-6. So Kansas City ends up winning it 37-20. It really wasn't close after the first half. I mean, by the first quarter, it was close, and it just kept getting more and more in favor of the Chiefs. Next up for the Texans and the Ravens. For the Ravens is the Texans. They're both 1-3. So Texans were able to break out of their losing streak and racked up a win. So now they're both 1-3. They'll be playing to stay competitive for a playoff spot. I think, honestly, one of these two teams is going to go to 1-4, and very likely is going to have a very difficult time, especially the Texans, of making it to the playoffs. The Ravens still have a chance in their division because besides them, there is Pittsburgh. And we'll look at that on Wednesday at the standings, but I guess the Ravens could handle a loss a little better than the Texans. Now, the Chiefs play the Jaguars, who are 3-1. The Chiefs are 2-2, and they're playing on Monday night, so that'll be a big game there. Who would have expected the Jags to have the better record going into that Monday night game? But they do, and we'll see how well they deserve a 3-1 record that they have at the moment. All right, that is a wrap for this episode, and please like and subscribe to this on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL. You can also find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and other podcast apps. Also, you can contact me at justthestatsnfl@gmail.com if you have a question, comment, or you can just post it, especially on YouTube. And I appreciate if you like and subscribe. And I'm on to my next podcast, so I'm out.